She thought it was just another luxury flight, her flight, her rules. The CEO boarded with that smug smile, the kind that dripped arrogance. But when his insult crossed a line she couldn't ignore, her hand moved before her mind could stop. It. The slap echoed in the cabin like a gunshot. She thought that was the end of it. But on this jet, far from the ground, the real danger was just beginning. What he did next would turn her world upside down, and it all started at 30,000 feet. Ava Brooks had built her empire from the ground up. What started as a modest event planning business had turned into a multi-million-dollar company, one that let her buy her own private jet. For her, it was more than a luxury. It was a symbol that she had made it, that the girl from a small working-class neighborhood had beaten the odds. She was flying to a high-profile charity gala that weekend, hosting some of the wealthiest donors in the country. The guest list was tight, but when a certain CEO, known for his ruthless boardroom tactics, requested a seat, she agreed. It was good politics, she told herself. From the moment he stepped on board, his presence filled the space with cold authority. He barely looked at her, and when he did, it was with the kind of dismissive smirk that spoke volumes. His comments started small, remarks about how surprising it was that she owned a jet, or how lucky she must be. But as the champagne flowed and the flight went on, the remarks turned sharper, laced with something uglier. He spoke about where people like her belonged, about what real success looked like. She could feel the tension in the air, the glances from her crew. They were all waiting to see if she'd let it slide. Ava wasn't known for letting things slide, and soon the line between professionalism and personal dignity would be crossed, and crossed hard. The insult that broke her composure wasn't loud, but it was lethal. Leaning in just enough so the others couldn't hear, the CEO said, "It must feel strange. Someone from your background sitting in the owner's seat. Don't get too comfortable. The world has a way of putting people back in their place." The words hit her like a punch to the gut. Ava had fought her whole life to prove she belonged in spaces like this. And here was a man, a so-called titan of industry, trying to reduce her to a stereotype in her own domain. Without thinking, she turned to face him fully. "Back in my place?" she repeated, her voice sharp. His smirk widened, as if daring her to push back. The sound of her palm meeting his cheek was deafening in the confined cabin. The crew froze. The other passengers turned. The CEO's eyes went cold. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then, with calculated calm, he sat back and adjusted his tie. "You'll regret that," he said, almost casually. She tried to shake it off, to return to her seat as though the moment was over. But minutes later, subtle changes began. The Wi-Fi cut out. Her phone, placed in the charging dock, was gone. One of the crew members she trusted most avoided her gaze. When she tried to check the cockpit, the co-pilot blocked the door. "Captain's orders," he said stiffly. That's when she realized the CEO wasn't just a man with money. He was a man with power, and on this jet, he might have more of it than she did. Her heart pounded as she pieced it together. He had connections, leverage. Maybe he'd paid someone off. Maybe this whole trip was a setup. The lights dimmed slightly as the engines changed pitch. They weren't on the direct route anymore. She could see it on the navigation display behind the bar, a slight detour, but enough to make her skin crawl. Ava wasn't just worried about her dignity anymore. She was worried about making it to the ground. The cabin door slammed shut behind her as she confronted the CEO. "What did you do?" she demanded. He didn't even flinch. "Teaching you a lesson," he said, sipping his drink. "You think you can humiliate me? I've ended careers for less." Her pulse was a drumbeat in her ears. She lunged for the cockpit again, but this time the captain himself stepped out, blocking her path. His expression was unreadable, but his hand rested on the latch, one flick away from sealing her out for good. "Sit down, Ms. Brooks," he said. "For your own safety?" Safety. The word felt like a mockery. Every instinct told her she was no longer in control of her own flight, her own life. The CEO leaned forward, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "You're going to stand up at that gala and tell everyone I'm the reason your company exists. You'll smile, you'll thank me publicly, and you'll erase tonight from memory. Or—" He let the silence finish the threat. Ava looked at the locked cockpit door, the unfamiliar path on the navigation screen, the crew members who wouldn't meet her eyes. She knew then, this wasn't just about one slap. This was about power, and he was using every ounce of it to remind her who he thought deserved to have it. But what he didn't know was that Ava had her own kind of power, and it wasn't the kind that could be taken mid-flight. When the jet landed, it wasn't at the gala's private terminal. It was at a small, discreet airstrip just outside the city. The CEO disembarked first, smiling like nothing had happened. Ava followed, her mind racing. She could bow to his demand, give him the public credit he wanted, and let the humiliation fester, or she could fight back, knowing full well it might cost her everything. At the gala that night, under the glittering lights and in front of the cameras, Ava took the stage. She thanked her team, her family, and the community that had supported her. She did not mention the CEO, not once. He stood in the crowd, his jaw tightening. The message was clear. She would rather risk her empire than sell her dignity. In the days that followed, whispers spread about what had happened on that flight. The CEO's reputation, already fragile among those who'd seen his ruthless side, began to crack. Ava didn't have to tell the whole story. People connected the dots themselves. She learned something that night, not just about racism, power, and the games people play, but about the cost of standing tall. Sometimes it's not about winning outright. Sometimes it's about refusing to kneel no matter the price, because dignity once sold is gone forever.